Hi, everyone. Welcome to Magic in Media, the podcast brought to you by the Vibe Collective and me, Carly D, a reader and manager here at the Vibe Collective. So this podcast blends magic with the current pop culture news and moments to show you that magic is all around us every day. We just have to look around and find it. So we find the metaphysical and the magic in the world all around us and share it with you. So welcome to our first episode of Magic in Media in 2026. So our last episode was all about the new year, what you can do for the new year, rituals that are classically used in New Year's Eve and things like that. But our first topic, so starting strong, is going to be just discussing the energy that we're coming out of from last week. So last week, not only did we have New Year's Day on Thursday, on Saturday, we had a Cancer full moon. So we were all collectively feeling, one, the energy of the new year, that kind of liminal space shift from one time to another, like we talked about last week. But we also felt that Cancer moon over the weekend. And Cancer is ruled by the moon. So whenever we have a Cancer moon, I feel like it really just amplifies our emotions and our feelings. And a little astrology tip, if you know your sun, moon, and rising, your moon really represents how you handle emotions or how you work through your emotions. So right off the year, coming off of the excitement of the new year, we were faced with a full moon that, one, is going to make us very emotional, and two, is going to make us think about nurturing and caring. One, how we're nurturing and caring for those around us, but more importantly, how we're nurturing and taking care of ourselves. So over the weekend, if you felt emotional, that's to be expected with a Cancer full moon. It's basically like moon emotion energy super amplified. Cancer is also a water sign, and water signs in general are known for being kind of like sad girl vibes, emotional, and just a little more watery, tears, crying of the zodiac signs. So a big thing to remember with this Cancer full moon starting this year is to not only return to caring for yourself, but remembering that we must maintain proper boundaries to protect our energy. And I know that we hear that all the time, and boundaries is really like a buzzword, but it is very intentional to watch our energy. It doesn't mean we won't be uncomfortable sometimes, but we need the reminder that no is a complete sentence. So this year, spend some time thinking about your boundaries. What makes you feel comfortable? What makes you feel uncomfortable? And where are situations where better boundaries can protect our energy? And you don't have to bend yourself to the point of breaking for others. This is something that I think a lot of us kind of have to unlearn the older we get. And this Cancer full moon does connect to kind of the mothering and nurturing inside of us. So make sure that you're mothering and taking care of yourself as we go into this new year with 2026. Be very mindful of our boundaries. And like I said, it doesn't mean you don't text people back or we just completely ignore people. It is just watching, where do I feel energized, uplifted? What spaces are supporting me and what spaces are draining me? When I think of boundaries, the phrase that always comes to mind is be a fountain, not a drain. Right? So if you are someone who wants to support other people, to uplift them, be a fountain, not a drain, right? Be mindful of how you're using your energy. We want to lift people up and be bountiful, not draining all of their energy. So that is our kind of first topic, just touching on the new year, this Cancer full moon, and the energy that we really started the year with, right? I think it's really important to tap in and notice those kinds of things. In the spiritual world, we talk a lot about energy, maintaining your energy, protecting your energy. And even as a spiritual person, I think it really gets away from us to be mindful of that, to make sure we're cleansing our energy when we leave a space or we leave certain people. And when we notice it is when we're feeling off, right? So we don't want to get to the point where we're feeling off and then we have to course correct. The best thing would be if we can kind of, like we said earlier, use those boundaries to protect our energy ahead of time. So that's something with this Cancer full moon over this past weekend I want you to think about. Don't ignore those emotions. Don't ignore those feelings. I think we just have to be really smart this year about where we're putting our energy, because a lot of us are going to be creating this year, and you need space and time to create, right? Creating shouldn't just be fit in between unloading the dishwasher and folding the towels. Make sure you are carving and creating time and space for yourself to create mindfully and not be rushing. Okay. I think, like I said, this creative year we have upon us, if you are a creative person, please, please create the time you need for your projects. That is something that I am trying to be very mindful about as I go into the new year as well, of setting aside certain time to work on certain projects and let the creativity flow. We live in such a fast paced, quick, like instant gratification type of world that we really do need to slow down and think to create new things. So that is the energy we are starting this year out with. It is very exciting, but again, very important to take care of ourselves. Now, our second topic I'm super excited for. We have a new fashion topic to cover. So, fashion and astrology, tarot, and crystals have gone hand in hand for many years. Let me grab a drink of water real quick. Lots of famous designers are influenced by the spiritual, the metaphysical. One of the most well-known fashion houses, I would say, that is influenced by magic and things like that would be Dior. So if you're familiar with Dior, there is a tarot deck that we carry in the Vibe Collective shop called the Mother Piece. And many years ago, it's probably about a decade ago now, Dior used the Mother Piece as inspiration for one of their resort lines. It's beautiful. Definitely look it up. I feel like I might do a whole other episode just on the Mother Piece and Dior thing, because the Mother Piece as a tarot deck does mean so much to me. I think it was the second tarot deck that I owned, but it is very classic. It has a lot of great history and lore, which is why we carry it at the Vibe Collective, and why I think I might have to do a whole separate magic and media episode just about that deck, the Mother Piece. But today we are going to talk about the Staud Zodiac Bags. So Staud, I hope I'm saying that right, is a fashion house. They make mostly bags is the main thing that stands out to me that they're known for. They do other clothing and things, but they have come out with a new Zodiac bag line. It is beaded bags. So in a classic kind of, over the arm style, they have several symbols on them representing each zodiac sign, and then a longer quote on the back that kind of ties in the symbols is basically describing the sign, and it says the sign on the bottom of the bag. So it is a beaded bag, like we said, has symbols on it, a quote on the back, and the name of the sign on the bottom. They're so cute. I mean, as a spiritual astrology girly, I am obsessed with them. They do retail for $350. So for a bag that's about this big, that is quite a bit, but they are, like I said, these beautiful beaded bags. Again, we see fashion show up a lot when we think about zodiac and astrology. And it's been forecasted that in fashion this coming year, a lot of what we saw in the spring shows were crystals, tarot, astrology, Chanel's whole kind of, not spring, but their like fall fashion week whole entire show was really like celestial, lots of like stars and astrology. So I do think this is just the beginning of us covering a lot of magic and media fashion. I know there was another fashion house. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head right now, but they were like using a bunch of geodes and crystals and stuff in corsets for their line during Fashion Week. So we will be seeing a lot more fashion and magic and media, which is fun because it's one of my other favorite topics to cover when talking about this stuff. But we are going to talk about a few of the designs in these Staud Zodiac bags and why they would choose those symbols or choose those things. And this is something I've always loved looking at, why they pick any kind of certain design for Zodiac stuff, like certain symbols, certain colors. Of course, I'm hoping they have some experts helping them. They definitely do in this line. But it's always very interesting to see other people's take on a zodiac sign, or when we're seeing it show up in fashion, what we're choosing, to symbolize and put up for these certain signs. So this week we are going to cover 6 of the bags. So 6 of the signs, half of the signs, there are 12. Next week, we'll go through the other 6. So if you didn't hear us talking about your sign this week, come back next week and we will go over the second half of the Staud Zodiac bags. But another thing I want to cover is there are 3 designs that have been sold out. These are fairly new. I want to say they came out a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. So yes, 3 signs have already sold out. I also think that's very interesting. Of course, part of it probably is because that design was most popular. But I think it says something about those signs when they're buying up, their sign in a certain thing, whether it be a purse, a necklace, what have you. But anyway, we're going to start with the first 3 sold out designs of the Staud Zodiac bags. So the first sold out bag is Aquarius, right? Aquarius, the bag is blue. It has an 8-ball, a shell, and an orchid in it. So I will be honest, 8-ball was kind of like very mysterious. Aquarius are misunderstood, I feel, when it comes in the zodiac. They are kind of mysterious. People don't quite understand them. So with the 8-ball, there is this kind of like magic unknown about them. Lots of the time, Aquarius is compared to like aliens, which is again very misunderstood or unknown. So they have an 8-ball, a shell, I think has to come from the water bearer of it. Aquarius is an air sign, even though they are the water bearer. So I just want to point that out. Everyone thinks Aquarius is a water sign because they're the water bearer, but they're not. They're an air sign. So they actually think a lot. They're very cerebral and in their mind because they are an air sign. The other symbol they have is the orchid, which is traditionally the flower that is used for orchid. So again, not surprised to see that. The most, I think, interesting symbol was, of course, the 8-ball. But again, it's just kind of that like unknown, misunderstood mystery kind of feeling that you get with Aquarius. So that is the first bag that we're going to talk about, and it is one of the 3 that is sold out. The second, my favorite, Gemini. It is a pink bag. It has a mirror, 2 swans, and lavender on it. So one, the mirror makes so much sense. I've even said in this podcast that I really do think of the Geminis as the mirrors in the zodiac, reflecting back to people, reflecting back like feelings, behavior. The 2 swans, we often see 2 birds with Gemini because Gemini is also an air sign, right? And birds fly in air. We often see 2 because again, Gemini is the twin, 2, double, and lavender is the common flower for Gemini as well. When I looked at this one a little more, obviously, because it was my own sign, and on the back, the little quote for it does say something about lavender calming the mind, which I think is pretty fitting for Geminis as well. I'm not going to read the quote on the back of the bags in this podcast, but if any of these speak to you, go on their website and read the quote yourselves. It is really cool how they have, I feel, a quote on the back of the bag with the symbols. I do really like that design. So our third sold out bag is Virgo. The bag is green. It has an angel little like wings in the background and an apple blossom. So Virgo is the virgin, right? The angel is often used to represent them. It's a lot of purity, innocence. Virgo is very direct. They're very organized. But we're seeing, yep, angel wings. These are very typical things that are chosen for Virgo. And they have an apple blossom on there, even though chrysanthemum is typically the Virgo flower. So that is something else I noticed. Most of the bags have the typical plant or flower for that sign, but not all of them. They did kind of change some up. So with this Virgo one, pretty common, I feel like, choices on it. Nothing that really stood out as too crazy to me. So those are the first 3 bags that were sold out. So these are now the ones that are available. We're going to keep going. So we're going to talk about Aries. So the Aries bag is red. Again, very fitting for Aries. They are a fire sign, so they're impulsive. I think they are the most fiery and impulsive of the fire signs. So I think it is very fitting that they have red. There are playing cards on their bag, as well as a strawberry plant. And most of them, it is like, some of them have 3 very obvious symbols. Some of them have like 2 and maybe kind of something in the background. So this one is really just playing cards and the strawberry plant. But honeysuckle is the traditional Aries flower, which is a little different. So again, they took a little change on that one. But playing cards, that struck me as impulsive. Aries are very known for being impulsive, taking a risk. And we're touching on gambling, I feel, with the playing cards there, where you are taking a risk and you are being impulsive a lot of the time when we're betting and gambling. But yes, on the Aries, they had playing cards and the strawberry plant. Next, we have Taurus. So Taurus was a green bag. It has the poppy flower on it, which is the traditional flower for Taurus. It had olives and a butterfly. So I will be honest, the butterfly, I don't really typically think of Taurus and butterfly. I thought that was a little out of left field. The martini olives I could see, because Taurus is a lot of luxury. They prefer the finer things in life. And when I think of like a fancy or like luxury drink, a martini with olives is definitely that. And Taurus are also known for honestly liking really good food, like very rich things that you can enjoy. Again, ties into the luxury. So I think that the olives are just kind of a play on that luxury food, and loving, comforting, earthly things, which is so Taurus. But the butterfly, I have to be honest, I don't really see where the butterfly fits in much to Taurus. I know with the quotes, they kind of made everything kind of work together, but I think that there are other things we could have put, or you could have just gone with a traditional like Taurus bull. But that's just my thoughts on these bags. The next one we're going to talk about is Pisces. Pisces is a blue bag with dolphins on it. Pisces is a water sign, so those are very fitting. We've got the blue for the water. We've got the dolphins. Where it starts to get a little different, we have a telephone, like a black rotary style telephone on it, and a lotus flower. The lotus flower does make sense because it grows out of the water. This is a pretty traditional flower for Pisces, I feel, as well. So, but I definitely think they did also pick the lotus flower because it grows out of the water. And obviously with Pisces, they were definitely playing on the water thing with the blue bag and the dolphins. So the telephone, honestly, again, don't really see where this ties into Pisces very much. They are not known for being chatterboxes. They're actually very like sleepy, dreamy, shy a lot of the time, I feel, with Pisces. They're not very like crazy outspoken like an Aries or a Gemini. So with Pisces, they're very calm. So yeah, the telephone is kind of right there with the butterfly for Taurus with me. Don't really understand where we chose that, or where that design idea came from. And that's why I wanted to talk about these bags, is some of the symbols make so much sense and are very like fitting for that sign. And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. And then you're like, why is this on here? Like, why is there a telephone on the Pisces thing? I literally cannot think of why, like why that really fits. So yeah, that's why I wanted to use this as a topic to just break down those connections, right? We are seeing magic in media. We're seeing the magic in fashion here. We've seen astrology bags and astrology accessories forever. But it is interesting when a new one comes on the scene and we can kind of talk about it, dig into the symbolism, especially with a brand as popular as Staud. And this is a luxury, a nicer bag. It's a $350 bag. So yeah, it's very interesting to see what kind of fashion is coming out of magic. So first of, I'm sure, many fashion, magic, and media related episodes, topics we're going to have. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I have to be honest, I love the Gemini bag, but it's sold out. So I couldn't even get it if I wanted. So yeah, if we didn't cover your bag this week, come back next week and we're going to talk about the other 6 Staud Zodiac bags and their symbolism on the bags. Now, our next topic is resolutions. It's the new year. We've talked a lot about resolutions. We talked a lot last week about rituals, what we want to manifest, what we want to bring in, little things we can do to tap into that manifesting, creating energy to bring in new good things for our new 2026. Little water break. But all that is great and good, right? We love resolutions. We love the fresh start. But I wanted to talk about starting again, right? When we have resolutions, we may let them drop. We're only a week into the new year, and I'm sure lots of us who have set resolutions have already maybe not followed through. Maybe within the first 2 days, we weren't following through on resolutions or things that we wanted. But we need to remember we can always start again. So recently, I have been really into my meditation journey. When I say recently, I really mean like the last 6-8 months. I have been very consistent. I've always been meditating, but I think it does ebb and flow sometimes. So really starting in like September of 2025, I was very like strict on my meditation ritual routine. I had kind of let it go to the wayside in the summer. And I had noticed that wasn't like the best for me. So I really got serious with my meditation practice again in September of 2025. So in December, I was at like a 77-day streak for meditating on the app that I use. So I was being very consistent. I was every day meditating, setting intentions, being very mindful about it. But again, during the holidays, hustle and bustle came, family, change up in schedule, and I lost my streak on my app. I wasn't meditating every day. I wasn't meditating consistently. I was stuck in the hustle and bustle of the holidays, but I think that that was a really good kind of reminder that that may have been the hustle and bustle of the holidays, but a lot of the time, the hustle and bustle of life kind of gets in the way of our resolutions or things, rituals, intentional things we're trying to do to better ourselves. So that can happen, right? I lost my streak. I went back down to 0. I probably didn't meditate consistently for like a week, like that holiday week, which is really a time I probably should have been meditating, right? But I was so busy. I didn't use proper boundaries. I didn't carve the time out like our first topic, and I let it fall to the wayside. And I have to be honest, in the past, I would have been really upset about that. I like the streak being high. I like being able to see that on my app. It feels like an accomplishment. It feels like patting myself on the back, like when I'm getting up to those higher numbers. But this time, it felt different to go back down to 1 day again. And it really, I do feel it was a message to remind myself. So I'm here to remind you all that we can always start again, right? We can always pick a habit back up. We can always return to a routine. If we get tired, it is better to rest than quit. That is one of my favorite quotes. When you get tired, rest, don't quit. Because it's really easy to just fully give up when we're tired about something. Or if we already let the streak go, it would have been easy to just be like, oh, whatever. Well, I'm going to go back to not meditating for 3 months. But no, I actually was happy to lose the streak, happy to have the reminder that we can always start again. We can always go back to one. We can always return to that thing we want, that thing we're working on. So it is okay to fall. It is okay to fail. It is okay to miss a day, but that doesn't mean that we quit, right? Favorite quote, again, when we get tired, we rest. We don't quit. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to set goals that you might not reach, you might not keep, but we're trying and we have to keep moving forward. So that is how I want to kind of end our podcast today. If you started the resolutions and you already missed a week or some days, start that streak again, keep moving forward. I am back on my meditation grind and I am on a 7-day streak because I started a 31-day intention challenge on January 1st. So January 7th is today. I'm on a 7-day streak because I started a new challenge. And I do think meditation challenges help me to stay on track. I've done 2-week ones. This is the longest one I think I've signed up for, this 31-day one. But it does just really keep me on track and keep me consistent when we are doing it every day. So keep your eyes open for a meditation challenge with the Vibe. This is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time. So I'm working on how we could do that as a community, to hold each other accountable, to really show up, to meditate, to journal, and to do that consistently. Meditation challenges have helped me so much to be consistent with my practice, that I'm really just trying to think of the best way to bring it to you guys so we can all do it together, right? Because when we're in a challenge, there's no excuse for not meditating. I always say to meditate, all you need is your breath. So you can do it at home. You can do it before you go to bed. You can do it on your lunch break. You can do it in your car. You can do it anywhere. Meditation is always with you because your breath is always with you. So there's really no excuse for me not to be meditating. I need to stay consistent with it. But again, it was a really good reminder this Christmas holiday season to lose that streak, go back to 0 and remind myself you can start again. So do not quit on your resolutions. We're only a week into the start of the year. And if you're already feeling maybe a little bit of lack of motivation or you want to change it up a little bit, maybe you had started with a resolution and now you want to change it, just make sure you're being consistent for yourself, right? Don't quit. Rest. When you're tired, rest, don't quit. That's a good one. And I use it a lot. So that is our first episode of Magic and Media for 2026. Thank you so much for stopping in and talking with us. We have some stuff to cover next week already. And if you are curious about some of the New Year astrology and astrology that is going to be happening as we go into 2026 some more, it will be a very good episode for you next week because I'm going to break down a little bit more the astrology that we have in these first couple months that we really have to pay attention to. And before I really sign off of our first episode of 2026, I want to remind everyone that we are still shedding some energy in the year of the snake. So the Chinese New Year does not start until February 17th. So if you've heard people talking about the year of the snake and the year of the horse is in 2026. It's very forward moving, very momentum, passionate, lots of good, big things happening for people. This is your reminder that that energy does not come in until February and March. So this January, even kind of into mid-February, we are still going to be very much shedding and releasing in the year of the snake. So keep that in mind as we go through January, as we go through resolutions. We're still releasing, we're still letting go. So it's an even better time, to focus on those new habits that we are continuing to bring in to this new 1 year that is 2026. It is a 1 year in numerology. So we will see you next week. We will talk about the rest of the Zodiac bags and the astrology that we have in the start of 2026. So have a great week, Vibe Collective, and find the magic in your own life. We will see you next week.